Guess what day it is? Reptiday. Hello tarantula lovers, I'm Alex and you're watching Tarantula Haven. You might be asking yourself, what is Reptiday? Well, Reptiday is a single day event put on by Repticon, usually in a city or town somewhere. And it's generally a smaller venue. I don't usually get too excited about Reptidays because smaller venue, of course, means fewer vendors. So it's not really something for me to get that excited about, but I usually like to go and see if I can find an interactive vendor there. I did go one time and found something that I really wanted, so I was hoping to maybe repeat that again. So yeah, I went to Reptiday. It was in Gainesville, Florida, and here's a video of my experience.
Just had a good breakfast. Now time for Reptiday.
So as you can see, it wasn't really all that much to get excited about. It was a very small venue. Surprisingly, I saw more vendors there than I usually see at the Gainesville Reptiday, but most of them were selling ball pythons, bearded dragons. I did see some really cool crested geckos. If you follow me on Instagram, then you know that I have crested geckos, and I like crested geckos, but I've been trying to keep myself from buying any because mine are breeding really well, and I want to cut down on the amount of crested geckos that I have. So I didn't pick up any cresties today. I didn't come away empty-handed. I did find one guy that was selling tarantulas there. He had a few P. regalis there, and a whole bunch of Brachypelma albopilosum, and I did see a flame knee there, Brachypelma auratum, and but it was a male, and I don't have a female, so I wasn't interested in it. So I did pick up a Brachypelma albopilosum, otherwise known as the curly hair tarantula, and let me go ahead and show that to you. So what I have here is Brachypelma albopilosum, also known as the curly hair tarantula. And at one point in my life, I didn't really enjoy these guys. I found them to be kind of unappealing and boring, and I found them to be not even as interesting as a rose hair tarantula, so I always avoided them. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten a new appreciation for them. I just love the curly hairs that they have on their legs and on their abdomen. And they are known for being a fairly docile species. Not to mention that they are very similar in husbandry as the rose-haired tarantula or Grammostola rosea. And so they're pretty relatively easy to keep and hardy. They're a decent beginner species. So I've been giving them a try, and I've actually kind of grown to enjoy them now. So having a new tarantula, that means that I have to put it in its enclosure, its new enclosure, so that I don't keep it in the deli cup that it came in. And sometimes that requires some handling, right? So as you and I know that if you have tarantulas, you're going to have to do some kind of handling at some point in time, whether it is a New World species or an Old World species. Some handling is going to be required. Now, handling doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to put yourself at risk of getting bitten. You can use another cup, a catch cup, or another means of transporting your tarantula from one location to another. So the issue of handling has come up here and there, where some people prefer to handle with their hands and some people prefer to be completely hands-off with their tarantulas. Now, as far as I'm concerned, I tend to not handle my tarantulas, but I do handle some of my New World species. This is a New World species. And the reason for that, of course, is just the enjoyment of being able to have that tarantula climb on your hand and to hold it for a little bit. There's just kind of something intriguing about holding a wild animal and just having it walk around on your hand, and you know, it's just enjoyable. But a lot of people discourage this. I recently was reading a post on Instagram where the person had posted a picture of themselves holding a Poecilotheria species. I believe it was a Subfusca lowland. And she got a lot of flack over it. Somebody got on her post and was talking to her about it, discouraging it and saying that it was irresponsible of her to do that. Whereas other people were getting on there and saying that, you know, she's not a novice and she knows what she's doing, and obviously she hasn't gotten bitten. But in some cases like that, it's not a question of if, but when. The more you handle, the more chances you have of getting bitten. Now, again, personally, I don't handle my Old World tarantulas, and the reason being is, yes, fear of getting bitten. I don't want to get bitten. I'm 49 years old, so at 49, I don't know what kind of health effects it's going to cause me, and I tend to have a little bit of a fear of that. Not to mention that when I got into the hobby, my wife said, if you get bitten, that's the end of that. So I don't want to end my tarantula hobby, so I want to make sure that I keep buying tarantulas and I can keep them, and I do not want to get bitten. Young people have a tendency to want to handle their tarantulas more so than people my age, and whether it is a New World or an Old World tarantula, and that just goes along with the immortal complex of being young. They're not afraid of anything, so they're willing. They're the risk takers. They're the ones that are willing to try different things, and whether they get bitten or not, and they'll learn from that. So again, personally, I prefer not to handle them, but like I said, I do handle here and there. Now, I will say one thing here. I think it is important to understand the nature of the tarantulas and whether it is an Old World or a New World, and know what to expect, because there could come a time when you might be changing one from one enclosure to another, and you might have it escape and have it run up your arm or do something like that. And if that comes along, then you need to know how to react. And if you're used to handling and you know how to handle, then you should run less of a risk than if you don't and you freak out and try to slap at it, or, you know, flick it off your arm or your hand or something to that effect, because then you run the risk of hurting your tarantula and hurting yourself. So again, you know, a lot of people will highly discourage that. They should be a look, don't touch kind of creature, similar to your fish in an aquarium. But again, people are going to want to handle. So that's part of what I want to talk about today, is the proper way to handle and making sure that you minimize the risk to yourself. All right, so I've got to get her into her new enclosure here, and the easy way to do that, the least dangerous way to do that would of course be for me to put the deli cup in here and just kind of guide it along. But these guys are known for being somewhat docile, so I want to take a chance and see if I can handle, so I can demonstrate some handling skills there. Anytime you're about to handle a tarantula, the first thing you want to do is you want to test its temperament. Every tarantula has its own personality, and some of them have different temperaments, whether they are New World or Old World. Now, of course, Old World will tend to be more defensive, so you can expect to get a defensive reaction if you go poking around in there. New World tarantulas have a tendency to be more hair flickers or try to get away from you, so you'll also want to watch for that type of behavior. And the best way to do that would be to use, say, a paintbrush. So what I like to do is use a paintbrush. And the reason I like a paintbrush is they tend to react better to the soft bristles pushing up against them than, say, something hard pushing up against them or something metallic. They tend to have an aversion to that, and they will be more prone to bolt on you if they feel something hard or something metallic against them. Whereas the bristles, I don't know if it's because it's similar to the hair on their body, but they tend to react a little bit less defensively to that. Now, something you have to understand about tarantulas. Tarantulas are very sensitive animals as far as their sensory organs are concerned. They have very sensitive hairs on their legs, also known as setae, and these hairs can detect chemicals in the environment. They can also detect any kind of vibration or changes in even air pressure and so on. So that's how they know what's around them. And it's kind of an interesting thing because, you know, I've seen some tarantulas that will have their abdomen facing me and they'll be pressed up against the wall of their enclosure. And if I walk into the room, they'll immediately bolt and go into their hide. Or they might even react defensively and drum against the glass and then again bolt into their hide. Now, how do they know I've come into the room if their eyes are on the top of their carapace and their abdomen is facing me? So there you go. You know, they're very, very sensitive, and there's a whole lot going on there that we don't really know about. Another thing that I have to mention is that tarantulas really don't like walking on skin. They don't like flesh. They have an aversion to it, so they usually will try to get off of it. Pink toes, they tend to do this thing where they kind of lift their legs, and they really don't like it. They especially don't like hairy arms. Mine will always try to run off of me, and they hate it when they get on there. So, you know, just understand that the tarantula knows exactly what it's on. It knows that it's on something living, and it's not going to want to be there. So you are kind of forcing it to do something that it doesn't want to do. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and test its temperament. So just by touching the side, if you notice there, it's not even moving. So that tells me that it's not being defensive and that I can probably go ahead and try to handle. So I'm going to go along this side right here and try to get it, coax it over toward my hand. So gently I'm getting it to move. It is not being defensive at all. It's not trying to flick hairs. It's not doing any of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to try to get it to go up the side. And you'll notice when it touches my hand, sometimes they'll tend to draw back and they don't want to be there. But if you're forcing them, they will eventually get there. All right, so there we go. She's on my hand, I'm holding her. And that's basically all there is to it when it comes to handling. Now, when they reach the end of your hand, you just maybe put your other hand up and let them walk over there. All right, so I'm going to let her go into her enclosure. And there she goes. She's settled in her new enclosure. And all I have to do is put the lid on, and I'm good to go. So I mentioned to you that I got lucky one time before at a Reptiday. It was Gainesville Reptiday about a year ago, and I ended up getting a Carabena Versicolor at that Reptiday, and I was pretty excited because it was the first one I'd ever gotten, and they're just beautiful species. So let me go ahead and pull that out. Now this one molted about a week ago. I'm going to tear up its web a little bit. Now this is an arboreal species, also New World. And it doesn't seem to mind me handling it. And like I said, it just molted, so its colors are going to be brighter. Oop. Oh, and there it goes. It doesn't want to be on me. Come on, little guy. Alright, so there we are. And it looks like it's starting to get its adult colors in. It's getting that nice purple on its abdomen. And it's starting to lose that brilliant blue, and it's starting to get more of that greenish color. Whoop, made me jump there. Alright, but very beautiful species. I was real happy when I got this. I'm kind of worried it might be a male. It seems to be growing very fast, but I mean, I don't know. It's the only one I have, and I'm not really sure what the growth rate is on these guys, but this one seems to be molting quite frequently, and it's gotten some good size on it. So I'm hoping it's not. I haven't been able to confirm it with the molt, but hopefully it will be a female, but I'm not sure if it is or not. Now let me demo one more handling. This is a Grammostola pulchripes, also known as a Chaco golden knee, and these are also excellent beginner species. I wish I had a larger species. Right now I have a sling, and they are prone to flicking hair, but not too bad. And he's acting a little bit defensive. Yay. Okay, so there's a good example right there. If I am trying to touch it and you see its legs go up and you see those fangs coming out, that's defensive behavior right there. So even though he's tiny, she's tiny, I don't know, it's not willing to be handled right now because I'm touching it and it's showing me a defensive posture, then I don't want to mess around with it. I'm just going to leave it alone and let it be. So because it's being defensive, I'm not going to force it to be handled. There really is no benefit to handling. It doesn't do the animal any good. It doesn't do me any good. So I'm just content to enjoy it and feed it and watch its behavior. So I don't need to be handling it. Again, the only time I really should handle would be if I'm doing a change in the enclosure or if I'm cleaning or anything like that. Again, I'm only doing this for demonstration purposes, but it's something that I don't normally do on a regular basis. If the opportunity presents itself, then I will handle it just because I do enjoy it. But again, you do so at your own risk. Okay, so you're not going to see me doing a handling of an old world species. That is something that I'm just not willing to do. I'm not willing to put myself at risk. If you want to see something like that, there are tons of videos out there of people handling plenty of old world species, some that just surprised me. I've seen people handling Heteroscodra maculata, HMAX, and they're known to be extremely defensive and can really mess up your day because their venom is highly toxic. All kinds of Poecilotheria species, you name it. Whatever there is out there that people have, people are handling them. So I highly discourage it. I would hate for someone to get bitten. There are even videos out there of people getting bitten, and you can see the effects of that, and it's not good. So that's just something that you definitely want to avoid. And that's pretty much it for my video. I wanted to keep it nice and short this time, and you know, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like button. If you want to see more, please subscribe. Until next time, keep loving them tarantulas.